Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Salty Nerd Podcast as we break down House of the Dragon, Episode 3, second of his name. Really great episode. Looking forward to breaking it down with my fellow nerds. Speaking of which, here they all are today. We've got Matt Vader 74 in the house. We've got our ambassador of estrogen, Jude, the redheaded Daft Call. And of course, Matthew Kadish, the master of all book nerds, blue checkmark himself. What's up, dude?
Yes. Unfortunately, Charles had to go hiking today, so he wasn't able to join us.
Hiking.
He will be back next week. We promise.
Yes,
Hiking.
Good for him.
Hiking.
What's wrong with that guy?
What a
In this
dork.
heat, I don't know what he's like.
Yeah, that's
Dude.
ludicrous. It's 112,000 degrees outside. It's
I went
insane.
to work the other day, 4 a.m. in the morning. The temperature was 99 outside at 4 a.m. I was like,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here in the chat. We've got Dr. Farnsworth, Luna Girl is here, Marshall is here, Jude is in the Jude's in there. Hey, what's up, Jude?
Hello.
Hello. And Anthony. Thank you guys all for being here. Good morning to everybody, or good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. And let's see, we're going to be breaking down episode 3. Like I said, heavy spoilers. We're going to talk about it, have a good time, make a couple jokes, and enjoy our morning. So thank you guys so much for being here. Real quick, this is how it's going to work. We're going to break the episode down. If you guys want to support us, you can leave us a super chat. We'd really much appreciate it. We're going to save that super chat. We're going to do a 15, 20-minute segment at the end of this podcast where we address all of your chats. So drop them in there. We're going to star them, and stay tuned because we'll talk about it a little bit later. All right, so this episode was it was a bit of a slow burn. It was a lot of dialogue, a lot of politicking. And then it was like it kind of went out on a big bang. We got a lot of the war on the Stepstones, which is really cool, but we mostly got the inner politics and family drama between the Targaryens back in the Godswood. So they go on a hunt to celebrate the 2-year birthday of the king's newest firstborn son, Aegon Targaryen, and we get a lot of jealousy between family members and all kinds of stuff like that. To start this off, though, we forgot to mention something last week, which we all kind of like went like this to ourselves. But the opening credits, we haven't talked about the opening credits yet, so I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on how they think they did this opening credits. Me personally, I'm just happy that they kept the song from Game of Thrones. You know, the dun 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 dun. I just it brings up such like nostalgia for a weird reason, and I'm really glad that they didn't change that, although they did change the visuals of it. So Jude, what are your thoughts on the new opening credits to House of Dragons?
Oh, I super dig it. When I saw it last episode on episode 2, I was like, hold on, this is different. And I just loved watching, because Fire and Blood, I just loved watching the flow of the blood. I know that sounds weird, but seeing like basically like where the Targaryens reach, like where all it's going, and seeing like we saw the first episode where he was creating this model, and then they're using it in the I thought it was cool. I liked it.
Oh, okay. So it's his model that they're basing this off of. Okay.
I assumed.
It's the stone model of Old Valyria that
Right.
Viserys works on.
Okay, cool. Kadish, what do you think about the opening credits? And do you have any insights as to what it might mean?
I do. So one of the great things that Game of Thrones did, the original Game of Thrones series, was that they used a map of Westeros in the opening credits. And, that would kind of give the audience a lay of the land, like they'd know where everything was kind of located in relation to each other, which is very important in any fantasy series, because like if you're operating in a different world, you need to tell people how that world operates. So I always appreciated that about the original Game of Thrones. With this one, basically, the opening is the history of the Targaryen bloodline. And if you look at it very closely, it starts off with Old Valyria, and then the bloodline expands out from there. And it goes through the stone carving of Old Valyria. And each cog that it gets to is a different Targaryen. And then they show how that Targaryen's, successors branch off from there, and so on and so forth, until we get to the House of the Dragon symbol at the end, which is the representation of the Dance of the Dragons, which is basically the beginning of the end for the Targaryen dynasty. So it's kind of cool. I wish that they made it clear what those cogs represent, because they do represent different Targaryens at different points in the Targaryen family tree. But it's not very clear like who's what and where.
Okay.
And it's also kind of confusing with like the stone old Valyria, like what exactly we're seeing. So I kind of miss the, overarching view of Westeros and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people really like the fact that they're reusing the Game of Thrones theme. And when I first was exposed to the new opening, I was like, oh, this feels very nostalgic. This is cool. It kind of ties the two series together. But I kind of wish that they had done like a variation on the theme just to give the show its own identity a little bit. But I mean, like, it's fine as it is. It's the Game of Thrones theme. So
Yeah.
I do wish that they had just changed it a little bit.
It's a little
V-
nitpicky, in my opinion.
Yes.
V, what's your take on the opening credits?
It's very bloody.
Okay.
It's just rivers of blood flowing through the whateverness of the Game of Thronesiness of everything. Yeah, it's super bloody. I kind of like it. I do. And contrary to what Matthew down there below me, where he belongs, says, no, I'm sorry. I like it. The theme music makes me feel instantly comfortable and connected to this show if you're a fan of the original show, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's like the Friends theme, that immediately puts you in the good mood to watch, the gang do the thing. And that's what a good theme song does. And this one has done this very thing for years. And I like it. I like the theme song. And I like the bloody river of whateverness. I have no idea what all those symbols mean. I'm a non-book reading plebe, and but that's fine. It's good. So yeah, it's doing its job.
Yeah,
I'm in with it.
Yeah. I prefer the music. I think it's fine the way it is.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Kadish that it's a little bit confusing because I don't know, like, each house's sigil is really, really similar. So it's hard to tell, like, what they're trying to say with this opening credits. I just, blood and fire. It's all cool.
Blood and thunder. Kill the rabbit. Kill the rabbit.
All right, so the opening, this is kind of like a cold open for this episode, which I thought was really cool. We get a look at the War in the Stepstones with Daemon Targaryen riding his freaking dragon. One of the better sequences with the dragon this episode is this opening scene. I think it's because of the lighting. It's so dark, and all you see is just like the flame coming out from the dragon as it strafes across the beach. But I have to say, there's this moment in this part of the episode where we get to see the crab feeder in action, like crucifying some poor bastard onto this wood stake on the beach and like feeding him to the crabs. It's gruesome, but this crab feeder dude is freaking dope looking. Like, he looks so freaking cool. And what happens later in this episode, we'll talk about it in a minute. I was super disappointed, but the one thing I had to say, and I literally laughed out loud, it was so funny to me, is this one dude who's getting like crucified up onto this piece of wood. He sees Daemon like strafing the beach, and he's like, "Ha, my lord is here. You're dead, crab feeder. I'm going to survive."
Save me, my prince.
Save me, my prince. And then Daemon lands his dragon and literally steps on the guy like he's not even there, like he's a freaking bug, and then like goes about his business and starts taking. I was dying laughing. I was like, this poor bastard.
Tell me you don't mean shit without telling me you don't mean shit.
Well, it just shows Daemon's priorities, right? Like, he doesn't care about saving people.
No, he's there to make a name for himself. But I just thought it was so funny. But it does have a lot of character depth to it for Daemon. But what'd you guys think? Jude, go ahead. What'd you think about this opening part?
I thought it said a lot. Like, Daemon is there to win. He's not there to save. And he's there to make a point. So, and I just thought that was very portrayed very well. Like, haha, save me, my prince. And he's like exalting, like, Mom, my prince is here. Mwah, 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 I love you, my prince. That said a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Was cool.
I didn't pick up on the part where you guys are saying that he's going to be rescued by his prince. I picked up on more. My prince is here, and you're all going to die.
There's a little bit of that.
He actually says, "Save me, my prince."
Yeah,
I guess I missed
"Save
that.
me, my prince." Yeah.
But I mean, he should have known better. he was done.
You're already dead, dude. You're nailed to a stake. You're dead already. It's over.
It's like I saw it more as a scene of it's like you've done me in, but you're gonna be done too. You know. So, but okay.
No, you're wrong.
That dragon, man. I don't know if I like Damon's dragon.
Craxus?
Is it too snaky for you?
He's pretty snaky. That giant long ass neck. He looks like the what's the Godzilla guy with the 3 heads?
Oh Jesus!
King
Put me on the
Ghidra.
spot.
Yeah, man.
Something
I'm not awake yet, guys. So my brain is not kicked in.
Throw it in the comments, guys.
Yeah. The dragon was weird. I'm just not gonna sugarcoat it. It's a weird looking dragon. I'm used to the other types of dragons, the one that was flying around at the end of the episode. You know, it's like I guess all the dragons are going to be different in this show. Is that how it's going to work? So,
that's what I'm loving about the show so far, is that each dragon is so different, and it's like pulling back to like old Valeria, how there were thousands of different kinds of dragons. And like in Game of Thrones, we only had 3 eggs, so we only had like really one kind of dragon, so that's all we got used to. But like originally they were all so different, and I'm really excited to see all the different like kinds of dragons.
No, I'm okay with all the different kinds of dragons too. It's just this one.
You don't like snaky dragons.
He's kind of weird. He's kind of a weird looking dragon. So yeah.
So just real quick, I want to put some context to this opening battle before we get to Kadish. It's been about 2 years since the last episode, so some time has passed. Is it 3?
Yeah.
Oh, 9 months plus the 2 years. Okay, for the baby. All right, so it's almost 3 years then. And they've been down there in the Stepstones just fighting away, and it's a losing battle at this point. We find that out in a little bit. They're not doing well, because the cave or the cave dwellers, the crab feeder. Has retreated.
The basement dwellers?
Yeah, the basement dwellers have retreated into the caves near the beach, so the dragon's power is kind of moot at this point. Like
that doesn't make any sense to me either.
How so?
Because the dragons just have to go to the cave entrances
I have
and
a lot
just
to
breathe
say
a lot of fire.
I have a lot to say about the strategery in this.
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, it's really pretty poor, if you ask me. Because I mean, literally, all they have to do is the dragons need to go and just firebomb the shit out of the cave doors.
But they did show a scene where the dragon like stuck its head through the cave and like blew fire, but the caves were so deep and so vast.
So
the fire
you
didn't reach.
Get your dragons and you seal up all the doors, because who's going to come out of the cave when there's a dragon sitting out front?
Well, they have the archers above that.
Okay,
come out and
those are hard to take out, as was seen at the end of the show too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you had major issues with the battle.
We have dragons.
Strategy.
We have dragons. Okay, so I'm gonna go hide in my hole. You know, and it's just no.
Yeah,
that
this
doesn't work.
This episode tried its hardest to kind of explain why they were losing in the Stepstones, but Game of Thrones has like a really bad history of not taking into account like actual battle strategy when they're talking about battle strategy, and this kind of carries on that tradition, because the stuff that was going on in this episode shouldn't have been going on. If you think about it too much. Real quick, I just want to highlight Mads Hansen's comment in the chat. He said, "Was it just me, or did some of the sounds in this episode sound weird at the end with Daemon? It just sounded bad. It took me out of the show's magic." I do have something I want to say about that when we get to that part, so I just want to call that up.
Okay.
But this opening battle scene, it was a cool way to start the episode. The thing that is kind of disappointing in this episode is how the crab feeder is treated. So he's got this broken harpy mask from Essos that he has on his face. A lot of people are saying that he has grayscale, which is why his skin's all messed up. But like, I thought that grayscale was like incredibly contagious, and so like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense if that's the case, especially at the end when Daemon's dragging him out by like holding his arm and stuff. So there's a lot of things here that I have questions about that I guess are never going to be answered when it comes to the crab feeder. But like we do get some nice setup at the beginning of this episode for him that unfortunately doesn't get a whole lot of payoff towards the end. So
yeah, I'd kind of given up on the theory that he was covered in grayscale, because he's surrounded by people, like, and that's why they made all of the people with grayscale, they quarantined him because it's so contagious. So I just
Well,
figured if
it
he's
also
coming in contact with people, that must not be what's happening.
looks like he's like carving off his skin because like it's patched and raw and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that might be
He's feeding his crabs.
yeah. He might actually use the crabs to like eat his grayscale infected skin. But like again, the show never sets any of this. My biggest problem with this episode is that there's a lot of stuff that just happens without any setup,
Mhm.
and it feels like laziness to me. Like they didn't have enough time to put in this vital need to know information.
Well, they're covering so much amount of time in just 3 episodes. Like
Yeah.
we're like
Yeah.
what 5 years in?
I think every episode is going to have like a time jump in between.
That's
I-
a lot.
I mean, watching the season previews, that 2-year-old looks like he's like in his 20s by the time we get done with this thing. So
Well,
Yeah.
the last time that we saw Prince Laenor, the Valerian child whose
Mhm.
sister was going to marry the king, he was like a toddler. And in this episode, he's definitely like a teenager.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
at
Yeah,
the tournament, right?
that whole end, I was trying to figure out who the hell that guy was, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
You guys ready to move on to the next part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so we move over to the second name day of Prince Aegon, the firstborn son of the king, and he's this whole sequence right here. The king again is just trying to enjoy his life, which we all know kings can't do that, and everybody keeps hounding him with like business of the crown, like, hey, we have to do this, hey, we have to do this, and you can see he's like getting agitated.
My guy, we're at a party. Can we not?
we get the great grandfather of Tywin Lannister.
Yep, we get to
bugging
see
the
our.
king.
That many greats?
I don't know. I'm just
It's 200 years, so what's that, like 3 generations at least?
yeah.
But yeah, what was his name again? It wasn't Jason. Jason was later on in the episode. What's this Targaryen?
Jason's the Lord of Casterly Rock. The guy at court is starts with a T.
Tylen?
It's not Tywin. It
It's
starts
not
with a T.
Tywin. It's like
It's st-
Tylin or something like that.
yeah, it starts with a
Somebody
T.
put
for
it in the
sure.
comments. I know you guys know. We're so lazy this morning.
I have no caffeine, man. I am
know.
just not
I don't have
functioning at all. We really need a
I'm looking
Kiki
it
here to keep us going. But
I
yeah,
know. Yeah, we fell apart without that guy.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he would know.
Charles would definitely know.
Tylen.
Tylen.
Oh, I was so
Tylen.
close. I
Okay.
was just looking it up. Thank
Ooh,
you.
Thailand. Love
Is
Thailand.
his middle name Bangkok?
Be funny
And
if it
we
was.
we also get to see Alicent, who is
With another
again-
bun in the oven.
with another bun in the oven, and she's real pregnant. She's
Yeah.
really far along.
Yeah.
So the king has gotten his heirs, which is it's a little weird, but they seem like it's weird. Like last episode, they meet not meet for the first time, but they like start a relationship, and we were all like, man, she's super freaking young. And in this episode, she's had her first son, she's got another one on the way, and when they do get together and they talk to each other one on one, they seem like they have a mutual respect. They're pretty happy together, which I thought was interesting. And we got Rhaenyra is like real not happy about that. She's still a little salty about her best friend banging her dad.
Yeah, Rhaenyra and Allison are both 17 now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which is crazy.
I mean, I think I'd be a little annoyed if I was Rhaenyra as well. That's super awkward, right?
Yeah, it is super awkward.
Well, I think, excuse me, sorry. I think the whole episode, she's clearly pissed off, but I think what she's pissed off about this whole episode is that no one is talking to her. She's
Mhm.
pissed off because she assumes, like, why am I even doing any of this? You're just going to replace me. You just haven't told me.
Well, she
And
did that to herself, though. She like
yeah,
did
yeah.
that.
But like this whole episode, she's just been pissed off because nobody's been talking to her, and that started 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And also, she fully expects, just like everyone else in the realm, that
Mhm.
Viserys is going to appoint Aegon as his heir. So
Mhm.
she's just waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And you see that later on in the scene where like she's in the king's tent during the hunt, and all the ladies are gossiping about like what's going on, and she's kind of like just like eavesdropping in to kind of find out what the temperature is, and basically especially Hightower's brother, who's the lord of Highgarden, I believe, or the Citadel, whatever, Old Town. He's the lord of Old Town, and he's like, hey, get your ass in gear, make sure that our bloodline is elevated to the throne.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting stuff that's going on here.
So this the scene at the weirwood tree in the back of King's Landing, where Rhaenyra's got her little, I don't know what they call him, the guy who plays the lute.
A bard.
A bard, yes, thank you. And it's funny, like, she's that pissed off teenage girl who just keeps listening to the same song on repeat over and over again.
She's so emo.
She's so emo. And the dude's sitting over there and he's like, do you want me to play it again, my queen, or whatever he says?
Did you see him going like this? He's like,
going,
oh, god damn it, make me play these same fucking chords.
Are you sure you don't want another song? And she's like,
How
play
about
it again.
Would you like a break? Maybe some solitude? She's like, play it.
As a father of 2 daughters, I completely relate, because
Ding dong.
they the 13-year-old crushes that get crushed, and they sit in there and they listen to their stupid song over and over and over and over again. Yeah, it's absolutely a thing. It's pretty funny. I've always wondered. I have thought about that. It's like, what would if you were a minstrel, and your job was to basically be the queen's jukebox.
Yeah.
I could totally see that. Now, I bet you this happened in real life back in medieval times. I bet that's really funny.
Play it again.
Well, I'll say this. So first of all, I'm glad that they didn't just put in like Justin Bieber or like some other stunt casting.
That would have been funny.
Like they did with Harry Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran. Yeah.
Game of Thrones had a lot of musical cameos.
Yeah.
But did you guys notice what the song was that he was playing over and over again?
I don't know enough about the lore, so go ahead, educate us, Kadish.
So it was the Ballad of Nymeria, who was the woman who conquered Dorne, and she's like the Westerosi's history's most successful female queen, basically. Like she basically conquered Dorne and took it on as her own, and so Rhaenyra is listening to that is basically. That's like what she's aspiring to be like. She wants to be like Nymeria, and it's keeping her focused on what she has to do in order to be a queen.
In Westerosi history, weren't the Dorne one of the only kingdoms to be able to fight off the Targaryens with their dragons and stuff?
Yeah,
too?
they were unconquered. And in fact, during this time period, they're still unconquered. But they also, because of Nymeria, they allow queens to rule. Instead of kings. So like if you're a firstborn daughter, you can become the ruler of Dorne due to the Nymeria precedent. So they're a little bit more progressive down there, and they've been defiant. It was the only place that the Targaryens couldn't conquer, and it's not until a couple more generations where like they conquer them through marriage. So they basically offer them a marriage alliance, and that's why by the time Game of Thrones comes around, so many Targaryens are married to Martells because of that Dornish alliance, and that actually turns a lot of Westerosi lords against the Targaryens because they lost so many people fighting in wars in Dorne. The Dorns are basically like like the Russians, I guess you'd call them.
I think Aegon spent like 10 years trying to conquer Dorne, and like every time he would show up, they would just not be there, and he'd be like, God damn it. And finally he was like, all right, how about can we just do a truce? And they were like, sure, yeah, come on over.
Well, he actually lost one of his sister wives in the battles down in
and
Dorne.
a dragon.
And a dragon, yeah. The Dornish were no joke, basically.
I like that song is connected to that. That's a nice little fact. I like that. That's cool. The last thing I want to mention before we move on to the next scene, Alicent, like in this scene between Rhaenyra and Alicent, like they're kind of going back and forth, and Alicent's like trying to give her an olive branch. Like, it doesn't have to be like this. I still want to be your friend. And Rhaenyra's just being like that snubbed, pissed off teenager. Yeah, no. I actually kind of felt for Alicent. I was like,
she's being the mean girl.
Yeah, I'm like, she's trying. You know, it's not her freaking fault what's going on. Like
she's throwing her weight around too, being like, "Listen, you little snot-nosed brat, I'm your
Yeah.
stepmom now, and if you don't shut up and do what I say, I'm gonna go fuck your dad."
I am
super dark.
I am so much on Rhaenyra's side on this whole thing. She was just betrayed. Okay, I would be so angry.
Well, it wasn't Alicent's fault.
I know, but you know, it's just weird. I absolutely understand. I get it. So,
well, you know what's funny is that in the books, so Alicent doesn't meet Rhaenyra until she becomes betrothed to the king. Rhaenyra. So like she wasn't part of the court, and so those two don't meet until like the marriage happens. And at first they're kind of like polite to each other, but then as Alicent gets pregnant and stuff like that, then like they start having like their little catty conflicts. So it's interesting to see in the show that they chose to start them off as friends and show like their friendship deteriorating over the course of these episodes.
So the next scene, real quick, they're heading off to the King's Wood to celebrate the second birthday of the son Aegon, and they're going off to like the King's Hunt, which we got in Game of Thrones. We get to that's how the Baratheon guy, what's his name, Robert Baratheon, died is during one of these hunts, and they go off. And what I liked about this. There's a little carriage scene, which if you guys have any thoughts about that, we can talk about that in a minute. But I like the overall scope of this show is so much more grander than the original. I love like when they kind of pan out from the campsite where the hunt is going on, and it's just freaking huge, massive. They got giant tents and all this cool stuff going on.
It's a festival, basically.
Yeah, I'm like, this is what a freaking a King's Hunt should look like. I just really like the production value that went into this. But do you guys have any thoughts about that carriage ride? There's some dialogue being shared, father-daughter, little infighting going on. So
the carriage ride was basically important to set up the current dynamic after 3 years. So like, you have all like the ladies in waiting who are basically Aegon's like, wet nurses and stuff like that, nannies. You have Alicent there. And the interesting thing about Alicent is that she doesn't want to be a player in the Game of Thrones. Like she just wants to be a friend and a wife, and she's still got some loyalty to Rhaenyra. And it's interesting to see her there and see how her old friend is reacting to like her children, and Viserys basically just kind of exasperation with his daughter in that scene was also very interesting because he just wants to have fun at this point. He's like, it's my son's name day. He made it past infancy. He's gonna live. I just want to have some fun. And my bratty teenage daughter is ruining it for me.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it was interesting to see like the different character dynamics in that scene.
Yeah. Also, I feel like this whole episode, Viserys has been like, phew, I'm past all that hard shit. I'm going to ignore the war. And I'm just gonna feel myself. And he's so cocky right now. He's just like, don't hit me with none. I don't want to think about it. I just want to party, you guys. I just want to have fun.
Yeah, I got this hot young wife.
Married. Yeah, like he's like, look at my son. Check out my son. Check out that baby bump on my new hot wife. Like he's really just like feeling cocky. And
guy needs a vacation from being king.
I think he's also feeling very stressed out.
Yeah.
Because there's some conflict going on in that head of his.
That's what happened. Like a king like him, this is what happens when he constantly pushes things aside and tries to forget about them until they all pile up all at once, and then he has to deal with like the brunt of it instead of just taking it one at a time.
It's like he's a member of House Jude. We wait until things get really bad.
I guess the thing that I don't quite get about him is that he was all, wanted a son so bad that he married Alicent to make it happen, but yet in his brain he has no intention of ever naming that son of his heir to the throne. So why the big push to have a son other than just peer pressure from his asshole lords?
He always wanted a son.
Yeah,
I know, but he doesn't. He's hell-bent on not naming him heir.
Well, I don't think that's true until like midway through this, or maybe towards the end of this episode.
Because he has this big prophecy that he had the dream of and everything. So
he also, a big part of this episode is him questioning his decision to name his daughter heir.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So he is struggling with it now that Aegon is kind of like actually surviving into infancy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like he made her the heir out of necessity and obligation.
Yeah.
And I think during what this episode does is during the first half of it, it kind of shows that he's getting a lot of pressure and he's second guessing his decision. And it isn't until much, much later in this episode where he actually decides that his decision was the right thing to do and he stands by it. But nobody thinks that. Everybody thinks he's going to name Aegon the heir, and that's what everybody expects him to do, and he's wondering if that's the right thing to do. This
comment right here kind of spells it out for me. I mean, Rhaenyra is the spare. So how can we not expect her to have a little bit of an attitude about it? You know what I mean? Because how would you like to just be going through life as the heir of the kingdom, knowing that you're just going to be there temporarily, probably until your dad bangs out an actual son that's worth something and can lead?
Yeah, but this has always happened throughout the history. Like, if there isn't a clear male heir, like other female relatives of the Targaryens have been named heir before, and they've lived out their life as I'm the heir until a real heir has been born. This is not the first time that this has happened. Yeah, she's pissed off because she's like, just fucking say it. You're gonna replace me. Mm-hmm. You're acting like you're not replacing me, but I know you're going to replace me. Just say it.
She's making that assumption, though, because he hasn't said anything about it.
Right.
She should. I mean, I
can
understand her.
Everybody else is.
Yeah, I can understand. Like
when Viserys named her heir, he wasn't planning to remarry. He wasn't planning on having any more children. Mm-hmm. And it's not until Alicent came along where he's like, "Oh, did I make a mistake?"
So what it goes back to is that Viserys, right? Is a weak bitch who's easily manipulated.
Pretty much, yeah.
by
his
court.
And it's funny because like when you see him operating, he doesn't come off as weak because like he seems somewhat intelligent, but he's really bad at he's really good at making bad decisions, essentially.
There's actually a point in this episode. He's a little bit tipsy, so that might have something to do with it. But he actually did show some gumption towards one of the Targaryens, which I thought was really cool.
No, it was towards the Lannisters.
I'm sorry, yeah. Towards the Lannisters.
I liked that part. It was like him finally just like standing up for not reacting to like, I have to do this, my duty, my honor, but just being like, fuck you, guy. I'm the king.
So speaking of the Lannisters, can we talk about the scene where Jason Lannister's Max on Rhaenyra?
Yes, absolutely.
He's so cocky.
I was going to bring it up. So the next 20 minutes of this episode or so is kind of based in the camp, and it's all just politicking, and it's all inner workings of who's going to, they're getting a lot of pressure to marry off Rhaenyra to a high lord somewhere. And that's kind of what's just expected. Like, she's 17 now. She's supposed to be betrothed to somebody, and the king is getting some pressure to do so. So we get this whole vibe going on. Otto's in the background, kind of like puppeteering people. And Viserys is looking around at all these lords, like, who am I going to freaking pick? Who would I pick best? And he sees the Lannister. So it's off screen, but we can assume that he goes over to Jason Lannister and is like, hey, why don't you go, talk to Rhaenyra and see what she does with you. And we get the scene between the two. So go ahead, guys. I'll let you guys take it away. Vader, you go first.
He squeezes on her so hard.
So bad.
It's like, hi, I have a lot of money, and I'm really good looking.
Swinging his gold dick around.
Yeah.
I can build you a dragon pit, baby.
Yeah. He's like, I don't have one, but I can make one.
What do you need a dragon pit for? It's like, for dragons, of course. For your dragon, because you're going to be my wife. And she's all, what? Yeah, no, it was
no game whatsoever.
Pretty cringy, man. It's like, bro, come on.
I also think
you need a wingman. That's not the king. Come on.
I think it's funny that the Lannisters have a long history of twins in their bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Her reaction was actually pretty funny. I thought it was good.
She dismantled him in a second. She's like, you're not fooling anybody.
Well, but you know what kind of is funny to me is like we all know what's going to happen, and this is kind of the problem with prequels, right? It's like we know there's some stuff going to go down 200 years from now, and we know what how crazy and batshit nuts the Lannisters turn out to be.
Mhm.
And so watching this guy kind of, you know, be the forebearer of what's going to happen, it's just, it was funny, you know, because he's not Jaime Lannister. Jaime Lannister would have had her just like, you know,
Wrapped around his
Smooth
finger.
wrapped around his
operator.
little finger. Absolutely. It was funny to me. So
Yeah. I feel like the Lannisters have not gotten quite to that point of like conniving individuals that they were in the original show. Like
Right.
Tywin was a force to be reckoned with.
Mhm.
Jaime had his, you know, his incredible sword fighting, and
Well,
Peter
if you
Dinklage.
know, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Peter Dinklage, his character. God, how can I not remember his name? Tyrion, thank you. Tyrion Lannister was the smartest person in the room, in any room. So it's like, like you look at these Lannisters in this show, and I'm like, they're not quite there yet.
So if you know anything about the book lore, one of the reasons why Tywin turned out to be as like cruel and unrelenting as he was is because his father and a long line of Lannisters going back from his father were buffoons, and they basically weren't respected in Westeros because of that. And so Tywin basically grew up being constantly insulted and derided as being a Lannister. And when he took control, he wanted to eliminate that thought of the Lannisters as buffoons. And so like he became like the complete polar opposite, where he was very strict, very merciless, like used his money strategically and stuff like that. And so it wasn't until Tywin came along that the Lannisters actually became respected, because up until that point, the only thing that people used them for was their wealth, because most of them were idiots.
So it's accurate to the lore then.
Yeah. One other interesting thing about this scene is that we're introduced to Lady Redwine in the tent, who is actually, I don't know if you guys knew this, but the Queen of Thorns from Game of Thrones. She comes from the House Redwine. She was a Redwine before she married into the Martell house. And so like that's basically Lady Olenna's like great grandmother or something like that.
Long line of badass ladies.
Yeah, and we also get introduced to Lord Lionel's sons in this scene, where we have Larry Strong, who's like the guy with like the bad foot who hobbles around. He joins the ladies, and his brother Sir Harwin Strong, who's got the nickname Breakbones, and he's supposed to be one of the greatest knights in the kingdom at this point. And these characters, they didn't have a lot to do in this episode, but they are very important later on in the story.
Jude, did you?
Yes.
Sorry, did you have any comments about Jason Lannister?
Yeah, so you said that you got the impression that off screen he like asked for permission first. I didn't get that at all. What I think happened was, because Viserys is talking about like, I've been buried under all of this parchment of marriage proposals. I think the Lannisters were like, hey, how about an alliance? And Viserys ignored it, as per the usual. And Jason was like, you know what? Fuck the king. I'm going to go make this happen myself, because I am so charming. She's just going to fall over with her legs in the air and be like, Papa Lannister baby in me. And when that fails, that's when he goes to the king and is like, hey, can you make your daughter marry me? And then the king finally is like, no.
Okay. All right. That's an interesting way to think about it. I just imagine, like, because what happens immediately after this is Rhaenyra is like, you know what? Screw this. She calls Daenerys, the king's bluff, and like she runs into the tent and starts like berating him. Like, how could you send this freaking jackass over to me? And that's like what I thought had happened off screen, was the king sent him over to her, and that she figured this out and went straight to him like, don't freaking do that to me. I'm not going to be sold off like a freaking cow or some shit. So it's just that's why I came to that conclusion, but I mean I could be wrong. It happened off screen. So
that's the impression that I got.
But I did like that scene where she comes running in there, and again the king is finally like showing a little bit of gumption, and he's like, you are not above tradition. Even I'm not. You have to do your due diligence as the heir to the throne. Like, this is what's to be expected of you. You can't just powder off and be, you know, a loner. And I thought this was
because if you don't have any heirs, then it's going to go back to fucking Daemon. And then what did we do any of this for?
So I just thought it was a really cool confrontation between father-daughter, and then she runs off into the King's Wood, which we'll get there in a second. But do you guys have any thoughts about that confrontation between the king and Rhaenyra?
Real quick, we have a chat from Jedi of Chicago, and he corrected me. Instead of I said Martell when it comes to Lady Olenna. She married into the Tyrell house. So my bad there.
Gotcha.
I thought it was a good scene. Like it just shows like the conflict between father and daughter and the frustrations that both of them are having.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good scene.
Very soap opera.
Yeah,
Stays of our lives.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see Otto kind of like get the king under control when he started losing it in front of like the entire court.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, "Excuse me, sire."
I really don't like him.
He's creepy.
I do not like Otto at all. Just...
well, in this scene, we also had it was because of this scene that Otto eventually proposes a new marriage alliance for the king to consider, and the king is just not wanting any of it.
Mm.
But talk about creepy.
Oh, is that where she wanted to marry her brother?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, he suggested that Rhaenyra be
Marry
engaged
her
to
uncle.
Aegon.
No, that's right, Aegon. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
And basically like her half brother, and he's like 2 years old and she's 17, and Viserys is just like no, that's the worst idea ever. But from a purely political standpoint, that would have solved every issue going forward.
Yeah. Who's the other guy on the small council that comes up to the king later in this episode?
So that's Lionel Strong.
Lionel Strong. Okay.
He's the Master of Laws, and he's the father of Breakbone Strong and the guy with like the bad foot, Larry Strong.
Yeah. Okay. This guy seems like the most respectful and also the smartest in the room.
He's the Lord of Harrenhal.
And I feel like he's going to die because nobody can be that good and that smart at the same time in this world without getting like shanked.
So well, he is the guy who constantly gives the king like unbiased good advice that the king doesn't listen to.
Yeah.
For some reason, I wanted him to be related to Sam Tarly.
Aww.
I think that's the vibe I was getting. But
did you notice the bard was named Samwell?
Samwise, yeah. But not Samwell. All right. So Rhaenyra, in her frustration about being a princess or something, she runs off in a fit of anger, and she takes her horse. And the knight of the King's Guard, Kristen Cole, runs off with her to protect her, which I thought was nice. We get a little bit of back and forth between them two, which is really cool. I like their relationship. And then let's see. We can finish off their storyline because I think it's only like 2 parts, but they go together and they're camping out in the woods, and they hear a rustling in the brush, and it's a boar. A boar comes out and attacks them and knocks Kristen Cole off the ground and like throws him away, and then starts attacking Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra is like powerless against this thing until Kristen comes in and saves her, stabs the boar, but it's not quite dead, and she flips around and starts stabbing the crap out of this thing because it like tries to get back up. And I have a couple issues with this, but also I have something I really want to praise the show for. So what I want to praise the show for is like they very easily could have had this film or shot like Kristen gets knocked down, he's out of the fight, and Rhaenyra takes down this bull all by herself. And, she's the big, strong woman, and she gets up and she stabs it to death and whatever. But it's a team effort. Like Kristen stabs it, weakens it, knocks it down.
He doesn't. He got knocked out of the fight right away.
Yeah.
If you watch that scene, they pull back to a large shot. It was actually Rhaenyra who grabbed her dagger and stabbed it to get it off her. And then when it was still alive, she started going after it.
It was a weird angle though, because it totally looks like somebody's standing behind the boar and stabs it through
it's Kristen Cole.
Towards her.
No.
But then when they pulled back, there's nobody there. She did that.
No, I got all right. We're gonna have to watch it because I totally disagree with you. Kristen stabs it,
but he's not standing there. I
yes,
thought the
he
same
is.
thing until they pulled back.
No, he's totally standing right there, and he does that, and he saves her, and then she does the finishing, like the final killing blow.
No, I'm pretty sure that's not correct.
V, can you be the tiebreaker here?
I'm going back.
Are you rewatching it?
I'm rewatching it right now.
I need someone in the chat or something.
You guys talk. I'll watch.
No, I'm watching it right now. I got it right here. Okay, so there he is. He's right there. I got it. He's right there. Let me share my screen.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, who's that? Who's got it right here?
That's
me.
Oh, okay.
So
just play it.
Oh, that's so dark. I can't see it.
That might be. No, go back a little bit. This is after she gets up.
Yeah. It's back more.
Okay. Oh god, we're gonna get copyright struck. Copyright. Right there. There he is, standing over the fire.
Yeah.
Oh, you are right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You are correct.
Vindicated. I hope we don't get copyright for that. So I like that they did that, where it wasn't just Rhaenyra. She's like a 17-year-old girl and getting attacked by this 400-pound, boar. Like, I like that they gave him an equal part in killing this thing, and then she does the final blow. My issue with it, and this has just something to do with like practical effects and stuff, when she's over there and she's like stabbing the crap out of it, the blood splatter that's coming up on her face is so obviously like a CGI additive that they put on there after after fact. And I'm like, I immediately I go back to like the scenes with Emilia Clarke when she's just covered in like like a practical effect blood just all over her, and I'm like, where's that? Like, what's going on here? Why are we getting this like iMovie freaking fake blood going on?
I think you're being super nitpicky about it.
I am being a little nitpicky.
I didn't notice at all. It didn't bother me.
It was the first thing that I noticed. The first thing I noticed is it just looked like somebody airbrushed red stuff on her face.
You and Kadish need to go have your little nitpicky channel. And,
Seriously.
Jude and I will have a fun talk.
So what did you guys?
Oh my god! The blood was just so fake.
It was super fake.
It completely took me out of the entire show because they had fake blood for a millisecond of a frame during a fight with a wild boar. Yeah.
Real quick, Dennis Wright in a comment says, "Master of Laws. Does that make him the law?"
The law.
It actually makes him like the Attorney General.
Anyway, guys, anything to add about the Sir Kristen Cole part?
So I think that this was kind of necessary because Kristen Cole plays such an important role going forward in the saga that we need to see his relationship with Rhaenyra kind of like advance.
Does he be turned into like her side piece? Is that what's going on?
I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to comment.
But
let's just say that the relationship between these two characters plays a very important role in future developments.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. It's an organic relationship that built on friendship and trust and love. I mean, I can totally see where they're going to go with that for sure.
Well, there was that great scene where he talks about how like she was the one who elevated him and his house to the Kingsguard, whereas before like he would have never been able to achieve that. He's a big fan of hers.
I fully expect him to die a horrible, horrid death.
Yeah, but I mean,
at any moment.
He's a Kingsguard, so it's not like even if something does happen between them, they can't do anything about it because Kingsguards can't marry.
I'm actually a little bit disappointed that we're 3 episodes into this show and they haven't killed anybody that surprised anything at all.
Give it time.
Listen, I am so on guard and on edge and not getting attached to literally anyone on this show. Because I know how Game of Thrones works, right? It's like, don't get attached. Do not get attached to anybody because you will just be disappointed. And it almost is making me unable to get as involved with the show as I want. Because I want to get on a team. I want to get involved with somebody.
Vader's afraid to get hurt.
That's it. That's exactly it.
He's watching it with the covers pulled up to here.
Kind of, it's like, when I haven't read the book, so I don't know what's going to happen. So I can't, I'm one of these people that just, I want to get invested. It's like the scene when the king killed the stag. I fully expected when he went in to put the second spear, that stag
thing was going to,
that he was going to turn his head and take a horn right in the heart.
Yes, I totally did too. I was sitting there. I'm like,
and that would have thrown the kingdom into chaos because Rhaenyra would have been sent to the throne. And I'm like, because I mean, that's how I would have wrote it. That's
exactly what I thought. Especially that scene where he's walking up to it and they have the stag like tied by its antlers, and I was like waiting.
That's not safe.
I'm like, one of those ropes is gonna break and it's gonna stab him through the head. And it's gonna be terrible.
47 horns is gonna go right through the king's chest, and he's gonna have a long, drawn out 12-minute death.
Also, the parallels between the king and his daughter are interesting.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't have any safety net there when she's fighting that boar. Mm-hmm. And then the entire episode we're hearing about like how good luck it is to see a white hart, white deer, because like that was the symbol of royalty before dragons came along in Westeros. And so like if you see a white stag, it's supposed to represent that, like, you know, you're being blessed by the gods to you know be the ruler. And so Rhaenyra is getting the full "you're worthy" treatment, whereas
She
her
is
father,
the chosen one now.
yeah,
Oh,
pretty
Yeah.
much.
you know?
Yeah,
Pretty
while her,
much.
100%.
but it also speaks to, like, we were talking about his decision to name Aegon, his firstborn son, as heir instead of Rhaenyra. Like, he's conflicted about that, and when he hears that the White Hart is out there in the woods, he's thinking, "Oh my God, this is about my son's birthday. This is a message from the god that I'm supposed to, you know, give the heir to the throne to him." And then when it turns out to be just a normal brown stag that they capture, it kind of, like, he's a little bit relieved at that point. He's like, "Oh my God, okay, so Rhaenyra is the right choice. This is where I'm going to go with this. I'm not going to collapse under the peer pressure and name Aegon heir."
And
There
it
was
just
there
goes
was a
back
lot
to
going on.
Viserys being so wishy-washy back and
Yeah.
forth. Yeah.
Can we also talk about how funny it is to watch him like just get sloshed in the middle of this episode, and like by the time he goes to kill that deer, he's so fucking hungover. Like,
Yeah.
he's just like, I don't want to do this.
He doesn't want to be there. It was great. I actually kind of like this side of him. I know we're only 3 episodes in, so we haven't had a whole lot of time to see his different personalities, but I liked seeing him, like, a little bit more vulnerable, especially when he's in front of that bonfire and Allison's talking to him, and he's just like, freaking, "Oh, I gotta freaking don't want to be this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this." Like, it
That
was just
seems great from Allison's point of view
Yeah.
as well, because
Yeah.
it just shows like how much he trusts her.
Yeah, and she actually did give him good advice as far as I was concerned. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't feel like she was trying to play him in any way. So it was good character development for both of them.
Yeah, like we talked about this the last time we did this, about how like Alicent is not playing a game. Everything that she does is sincere, but she's also doing what she's told. So her father is pulling her strings, saying like, "Go in there and talk," but everything that happens after that is always genuine coming from her.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
since we're speaking of Alicent, can we kind of move to the point where she's back at King's Landing real quick?
Yep.
And her father comes in, and basically he's like, "Okay, you need to start playing some Game of Thrones stuff because we want our son to be like the named heir." And one of the funny things about that scene, so she's in the former queen's quarters, right? Like the queen from the first episode.
Aemma.
And if you look at the tapestries on the wall, they're all like very graphic sexual.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like she's got pornography on her wall.
Yes,
basically.
super
I
porn.
did. I was watching this episode and I'm like, "What is that tapestry?" I was like looking at it
So
sideways,
Katish.
and I'm like, "That is a man holding another man's dick." It's just like,
There was like orgies on the wall. and
Yeah.
stuff like
Fine,
that.
they're twins.
it was the sex room. That's
Yeah.
it's the sex
This was
room.
just showing my brother and sister.
But
I did notice that.
What struck me as interesting in this scene, so like throughout the episode, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Viserys was missing his pinky and ring finger on his left hand, and they didn't really make a big deal of it.
I did not notice that.
But there are things like when he holds the Lannister sword, his gloved hand has like his 2 fingers sticking out because there are no fingers in there. But I wanted to show you guys this because there's actually something kind of funny about it in this episode. So we have basically he's missing his 2 fingers there. And this is when he's meeting with Alicent in his chambers.
Yeah.
But later on in the episode, so do you guys remember how the coffee cup made its way into Game of Thrones?
Oh
at a certain
no.
point?
Yeah.
So
No,
some
there
of the
was not.
special effects artists were sleeping on the job because they forgot to edit out
Oh,
his green screen
no.
fingers
Oh, that's
in
funny.
the scene immediately after this. And a lot of fans picked up on this little gap here and have been
Oh,
on Twitter
man.
talking about it.
So
I
now
did
there's
notice
some
that.
dude just some dude at HBO's making them go through every frame of
Yeah.
the
I
show we
wonder-
haven't seen yet for the last second.
I wonder if they fixed it now. I'm gonna go. I'm sure they do.
I just pulled these screen grabs before we started, so like it's still up.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah,
At
but-
least it's
but-
not.
but, But Patty Constantine basically has like his 2 fingers covered with like green material, so they can chroma key them out. But that one shot, and it lasts like for like half a second. But that one shot, you see them in there, and someone just forgot to like rotoscope them.
Just kind of forgot.
Just kind of forgot that.
Just kind of forgot.
Yeah, I got to call that up because this is the only time I'm probably going to get to use.
There you
We
go.
kind of
We-
forgot to remove his fingers.
That's funny. I didn't notice that, honestly. I'm checking right now to see.
But the scene that I loved was when Alicent goes to see him in his chambers,
Mhm.
and she's going there under orders of her father to try to bring up the discussion with the king about succession. But while she's there, she sees this letter from the Valerians who are requesting help from the crown in their fight at the Stepstones. And Viserys is just like wanting none of it because he's like, hey, these guys started their war. I don't give a crap. I don't like my brother. Let him lie in the bed that he made. And Alicent, this is the first time that we really get to see her kind of like step up as a queen. And she basically says, okay, well, if you won't do it to help your brother, then
do it to help the realm.
Yeah, do it to help the realm, because like what benefit does the realm have if the crab feeder thrives or if he's defeated? And so that convinces the king to kind of change his mind. And I thought that was like a real girl boss moment. That like I was like, damn, Alicent, yeah. Now you know how to play the game there. It was very impressive.
I like that part too. And again, she's not like doing anything nefarious. She's giving him good counsel.
Yeah, she's correct in her advice. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
She's kind of able to kind of cut through all like the petty court soap opera drama and just be like, hey, this is the right decision to make. I like that.
Yeah. The next scene, before we get to the big battle at the end of the episode, the next scene I really want to talk about was this one-on-one time between the king and Rhaenyra in the small council. After everybody leaves, they have like a real heart-to-heart, father-daughter discussion about her role and what she is required to do based on tradition and all this stuff. And like, she's fighting it, but the king makes some solid points, and he's like, this is what we have to do. It can be yours. Like, I want you to be happy. I want you to do what you want to do, but you have to do something. You can't just sit here and mulk around and be the freaking emo kid running around King's Landing. Like, that's not how this is going to go down. So I really like this back and forth between the two of them. I think they both did an excellent job as far as the acting goes and stuff like that. And there was something I wanted to mention. God, crap, I had it in my head a second ago and I forgot. We really do need caffeine or alcohol, one of the two.
Or Charles.
We are missing something today. But they had this conversation, and this is when the king reveals that, like, I'm not going to replace you as heir. You are the heir to the throne. Aegon is not going to be taking you over. So, like, let's just settle that and get that out of the air.
But you
right
need
now.
to marry.
But you need to marry somebody. So I really like this back and forth between the two of them.
And he makes the decision to be like, okay, you can choose who you're going to marry.
Yep.
And I think that's going to cause some problems going forward.
I hope she chooses.
Sure.
I hope she chooses Kristen Cole.
She can't.
I know she can't. But
yeah, Kingsguard aren't allowed to marry. But in the trailers for the next episode, they kind of hint at something that's going to happen that throws some problems into the wheel, or some wrenches into the wheel or something like that. Because well, I don't want to get into spoilers just yet, but needless to say, this is another in a long line of bad Viserys decisions.
Oh, that's a bummer.
What was it that Daenerys always said? I don't want to spin the wheel. I want to break it.
I want to break it. Yeah.
I'm not going to fix the wheel or something like that. I'm not going to fix the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel or whatever it is. Whatever the famous line is from that movie.
Yeah.
I just want to spin the wheel and hit $1.
$1, Bob.
Put it all on black. All right. So you guys ready to talk about the final battle sequence?
Yes.
I had a freaking blast with this. I know Cage is going to, nitpick the strategy behind it, but
I have a question before we get to the actual battle.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk about the scene before the battle
at the little table
at the little council rock scene where they're all strategizing, and Aegon not Aegon. Damon, blah blah blah. No, I get all the weird. When he comes back and he lands, and the king's courier comes up and it gets the message. Why did he get so upset and beat the shit out of that dude? I don't understand. I didn't understand that.
Well, they did the narration. That letter basically said, hey, if you take away the political correctness of the letter itself,
right.
It basically said, hey, I know you fucked up. I know you're losing this war. My big brother self is going to come and save your ass from your stupid decision. And that pisses off his ego. And he takes out his initial anger on the messenger.
Okay, which was the catalyst for the end battle.
Yes. So basically what spurs him into going out onto the beach is like this idea they're losing. They can't get these guys out of the caves. They keep losing more men every time they go after them. So their idea for how to get them out of the cave is to send in somebody to bait them out. And the only person that's big enough or important enough to bait these men out of their caves is Daemon. And that's the idea that they have at this council meeting. And
He'd rather commit suicide than let his brother come in and save the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's pissed off and he's like, I'm just going to go freaking do this. And if I die, I die. Fine. I'm not going to let my brother come and save me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he goes out there, and this sequence, like, I haven't really been real hot on Matt Smith as Daemon yet. Like, he's an okay character. It's kind of cool. He's got a little sarcasm in there. But this scene kind of made me want to root for him because I loved watching him storm that beach. Just the way it was filmed and the practical effects with all the bodies laying around and him just going ham on a bunch of dudes. Like, it was freaking cool. I had such a blast watching this scene.
Those were probably really bad CGI that you probably could nitpick.
Lies.
So what I got from this letter was Daemon was like, it's been 3 years I've been fighting this. And now you want to come in and take the credit for winning it? I'm going to squash this before you even get here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So he goes onto the beach and he fakes his surrender. He brings a big white flag. He plants it in there. He takes his sword out and he hands it over. Puts it in the submission thing, and he tricks these men to coming out. And then once they come out, then he starts fighting them, which causes all hell to break loose. And somebody's gonna have to. Cage is gonna have to explain this to me, but I do not know where this came from. But like right when the moment where you think he's gonna die, he's been hit by a couple arrows. He's completely surrounded by men. This Valerian dude comes in with a dragon that we haven't seen yet, and we don't know who this guy is, and he just like burns most of them and saves Daemon. Where did that come from, and why was there no setup for that?
So this is one of those things where basically, like, when Jude and I were watching it last night, we were like, wait, who's this guy, and where did he come from? Who's this dragon? And it was not set up at all in the episode. It was like a Deus Ex Machina almost. But basically, that's Laenor Valerian. It's the son of the sea snake himself, Corlys Valerian. And his mother is a Targaryen, so he's a dragon rider.
Right.
And he has this dragon named Sea Smoke. And basically, like, he is the one who Lord Strong suggested that they wed Rhaenyra to in order to unite the houses. And so he's a dragon rider, and he's got his own dragon. He's had it since he was a little kid. But they've never said this in the show. So when he comes in to save Daemon, and he's the one who's like basically flying around and scorching all the Triarchy guys.
Yeah.
It just came out of the blue, because him being there means that they didn't have just Daemon's dragon. They had 2 dragons, and you're telling me that these Triarchy guys could fight off 2 dragons at the same time? I don't think so.
No, you're not buying it.
They're crab people. They just go underwater.
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
well, throughout the episode, they're kind of setting up like why they're losing this war in the Stepstones, which is basically the Triarchy people have resorted to guerrilla tactics, where under the cover of night they'll go sabotage the ships. They'll have their archers kind of run out and do like hit and run attacks. And basically on the stone scene where they have the Stone Council, they talk about how they've created choke points for the dragons, and they run back into the cave so the dragon fire can't get to them. And also they've starved them out. So basically all the resupplies from the mainland haven't been able to get to them. So the Valerian forces are down to like 60 knights and 18 ships. And when the king comes along, he's like, okay, I'm going to send you 10 more ships and 2,000 men to kind of put this thing to bed. And right before Daemon arrives at the Stone Council, they kind of say like, oh, like there's like a little mutiny brewing, because Corlys's brother is like, what good has this guy done for us? He's just kind of like gotten a bunch of us killed and we're losing. And so Daemon is very much aware of what's going on, and he knows that if his brother comes in to claim victory on this thing, then like he's going to be emasculated, and he doesn't want to do that. But I just feel like the battle strategies here don't make any real sense, because like if you have 2 dragons and you have ships, you can confine the crab feeder and his army to like one place. one dragon can go off and destroy all the pirate ships that the Triarchy is sending them. The other one can keep them contained and just like starve them out over time or something like that, or keep them contained to one island. None of this stuff made any sense.
Cook them in the caves.
They tried that. I don't know why you picked that up in the first part of the show where they tried to do that and it didn't work. They showed you that doesn't work.
Now they've got roasted crab to feast on.
I think the biggest problem with this final battle scene is that we didn't get to see the final confrontation between Daemon and the crab feeder. I would have liked to have seen a fight between those two.
That's
just for the payoff.
I thought that the crab feeder was going to be like a bigger bad.
Yeah, I did too.
And he just like went out so quickly. I was like, well, that was kind of anticlimactic.
It was. So like my initial thought, like I just praised like the whole charging of the beach thing. I really like that. Also, shout out to Charlie Allen and his guys. They're the archers in this episode.
Oh, who was he?
I don't think Charlie was in. He might not have been but his crew and his guys were working on this episode, and they were the archers.
I need to rewatch it again now.
And a couple of the guys on the beach, I think, were also Combat International guys. So shout out to them. I love that sequence, but I'm with Jude 100%. Like I was so on board with this crab feeder guy. He looked menacing and he looked creepy and weird and badass, and I wanted him to play like a really cool big part. And then we get nothing. He dies off screen in the cave somewhere, and then Daemon comes out completely covered in blood, and the crab feeder's like chopped in half, which is badass. But I would like to have seen how that happened. Mm-hmm. That was kind of a bummer.
I never got the impression that the crab feeder was a great warrior or fighter. I got the impression that he was the leader, but he's emaciated. He's fucked up. He's covered in scabs and grayscale scars.
So was the Night King.
Yeah, but he's a supernatural creature. This guy's not. Mm-hmm. I didn't get enough about this guy other than a couple shots over the last 3 episodes of him looking menacing into the camera going, "Ooh, I'm the crab feeder." That's it. That's all we got.
Well,
we never even heard him talk. So
they built him up to be like this cunning strategist, right?
Right.
But like if you have 18 ships, you can create like a blockade around the island to contain them, have the dragons like destroy the pirates that are like harassing the shipping lanes, while like the forces, the naval forces from House Valerian just keep them contained and just keep picking them off. Like none of this stuff that they were talking about in the show made sense as to why the crab feeder's army was actually winning this war. It just didn't make any sense to me.
I think we probably are lacking some information because this episode was already so rushed, and like we said, like this guy came out of nowhere with this dragon, which is fine. Like if in the story he's of Targaryen blood and he has a dragon and it's named whatever the hell, that's fine. But Sea Smoke, that's a badass name too. But they need to have shown that at least once before. They needed
something to set it up.
Something
like me and Jude were literally like, who the fuck's that?
Yeah, yeah. Like I knew I recognized him from the council meeting on the cliffs, but there's no hint that he has a dragon at all. Like even if it was just like sitting in the background, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go with my dragon, go take care of something," and his father's like, "No, don't do that. Daemon already tried that and it didn't work." Like literally 10 seconds worth of dialogue would have fixed that scene. So
and I would like to add that Sea Smoke is actually a really cool looking dragon. Not some weird long serpent neck looking thing like Daemon's dragon.
Yeah, I would have appreciated it if it had been a dragon that we've even at least heard of. Like I know I'm super focused on like, ooh, who are the dragons? Like what dragons are we going to get to see? But like they were talking about Vhagar in the last episode, and I was like, oh, is that? And then I was like, I was watching the subtitles and I was like, Sea Smoke? Who the fuck dragon is that?
I also think that they didn't do a good job of pointing out who Laenor Valerian was, because last time we saw him, he was like, 8 years old.
Little kid, yeah.
And like they didn't really refer to him at the council meeting. Like, he was there, he was interacting with people. They knew who he was, but
it's
the audience
only been 3 years.
Yeah,
like he's a grown up.
He's like 17, 18 at this point.
He's the same age as Rhaenyra, but Rhaenyra looked the same in the last episode, and he looked like a little kid.
Well, girls mature faster.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, in the last episode, Rhaenyra was 14 years old, right? Mm-hmm. So if he was like 15 in that last episode, that would put him at 18. So like he's out there fighting alongside his father.
Yeah.
But when he was on the dragon, he had his helmet on. So like it wasn't clear that was even him.
Yeah.
You know,
know?
I have to say though, like I know this is the issue with helmets in TV shows like this. If you put a helmet on your hero, it's difficult for the audience to tell them apart. I completely disagree. I love the fact that they put helmets on people. It makes so much more sense.
Well, I mean that's fine, but like you need to like set this up. Like you know what this was? This was a Battle of the Bastards moment where the Eerie just shows up out of nowhere because
Yeah.
they wanted that tension of like, oh, is he going to die? Is he going to lose?
Mhm.
Because like they did do that great build up where Daemon kind of walks out into the middle of like the surrounding army and
Yeah.
everyone's getting ready to attack him. But like I feel like this show errs on the side of like, oh, we want to surprise our audience as opposed to like we want to make sure that it's comprehensible.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I had no idea where that dragon came from. That was probably the weakest moment in this episode as far as storytelling goes, because like he just comes out of nowhere, Deus Ex Machina, saves the day, and I'm like, who is this guy and why does he have a dragon? Like where did this come from? This is crazy.
I just
but
want to
go ahead. No, I was gonna say, but
you hang up.
no, you hang up. I was just gonna say, like, my last comment on this fight scene was just, I had a blast with it. I thought it was really well done. It was violent and gory, and it had a lot of really cool sword fighting moments. I love the costumes. I feel like the armor in this show is like miles above the original. They look badass in that freaking silver knighted armor with their helmets and stuff. I geeked out, dude. I watched this fight.
Are they still wearing
2 times.
their armor T-shirts?
I don't know.
I haven't
I
looked
don't
at
know.
it close enough yet.
I didn't notice either. It looks good to me, except for that fake blood in that one scene. But go ahead, Jude.
Oh, I just wanted to say I think it's hilarious that we have people in the chat just trading like different crab recipes now.
That's what we're here for. That was it for the end of the episode. So Daemon comes out with a half chopped up crab feeder, kind of like solidifying his place as like, I don't need my brother's help. I'm my own man type of thing.
Well, he clearly does, because it was his brother that instigated him to go finally get the job finished.
Right?
Well,
yeah.
Daemon wasn't expecting to survive. He was like, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory.
Mhm.
Because that was a suicide mission, essentially.
Yeah.
And can we just talk about how bad the Triarchy archers are? Like,
They're terrible.
some of the worst archers I've ever seen.
One dude, and he's out there on the beach, and they can't hit him. They're throwing hundreds of arrows at him. What they did, they hit him. What did he get? 3 times, right?
He got
Once
hit
in the
3 times.
once in the
Leg.
knee, once in the gut, and once in the chest. And he got back up.
I
and
think
kept
it
on
was
fighting.
the calf. I think he
Was
got
it
hit
the
in the calf. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he got 2 in the chest and 1 in the calf. But it was kind of like on the side of the armor. But he got hit once at the beginning, too, with a flaming arrow. But I guess his armor caught it because he just like pulled it right out. But those archers were really, really bad. There were a lot of them. You'd think they would have hit something by accident.
They were on loan from the Empire.
That's what happens when you have plot armor for characters. You just stormtrooper aim.
No one taught them to aim for where they're gonna be instead of where they are, I guess.
Yeah. All of the archers showed up and they were like, "Hey, have you had any archery lessons?" No. There's a lot of us. I'm sure somebody's gonna hit them, but
fine.
none of them had archery lessons.
Well, I
There
was
was a lot
wondering
of obstacles he was jumping between and around out there.
I was wondering where they got all those arrows from, because they'd been fighting for a while, and the Valerian fleet had been trying to like cut off their supply lines.
Sunken ships.
Recycle.
the sunken
Pull 'em.
ships tournament. Yeah.
Oh,
They go down at the end of
all-
the day and collect arrows and then go back
well,
up.
all the dragon fire burns the arrows up, so they can't recollect them. So
Yeah.
All right, let's do final thoughts on this episode. Vader, what'd you think?
Oh, solid. I'm enjoying this series quite a bit, actually. Even the slow parts where it's just all the politicking and everything going on. It's just set up for stuff down the road, and I enjoy it. Unlike that other fantasy show that's out right now, this one is easy for me to buy into and get into. It's like I've said before, I feel like it's just a continuation of Game of Thrones back a few years ago when it was good, in the first few seasons, and I'm enjoying the crap out of this show. I'm glad it's out because it's nice to have something that I look forward to watching now instead of having a show that is like, well, fuck, I gotta watch this stupid ass show because we talk about it on the pod or something. You know, it's nice. It's just really cool to have a fun show that I like right now to watch, and because they're not producing a lot of good shows right now. So
I have to say, so you guys know my wife is very Hallmark. She likes happy stories and stuff like that. And she was not into the original TV show. It was way too gory, way too sexual. Everything was just like in your face shock value stuff. And I'm watching this show, and we're early in yet, so I don't know where it's going to turn. But so far, I feel like this is something that she could get into. Like it's a lot tamer than the original show in some areas, while still having like a lot of that political intrigue and cool like inner workings of the family dynamic and stuff like that. So I'm gonna give it a couple more episodes, and I think I might be able to watch this with my wife on Sunday nights, which will be a lot of fun. So I'm glad about that. Jude, final thoughts on this?
Oh, I'm still very into it. After talking about it with you guys, I think that this was probably the slowest episode that we've seen so far. But I'm still super on board and really excited to see where they take this. And it's nice just to be in the world of Game of Thrones again.
Cool. Kadish, final thoughts?
This was my least favorite episode so far for all the reasons we discussed. The battle strategy didn't make any sense. The Deus Ex Machina, the lack of setup, the overemphasis of, Rhaenyra being a bratty, like 17-year-old teenager girl. There was a lot of stuff in this episode I did not enjoy. And I felt like I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes of this show. I thought the first 2 episodes were quite strong, even though they were kind of slow and deliberately paced. But this episode just kind of went off the rails. A lot of bad writing choices in this episode. That being said, it was still better than most of what I'm watching right now. So it can't be too critical of it. But so far this is the weakest of the season for me.
Okay. I would like to make a comment that I think it's kind of funny that you were complaining about the fake blood, which I'm not really convinced that it is fake, when they had that absolute cartoon of a white stag come up and present itself to Rhaenyra, because that was bad CGI. That was like some
it's been a minute since I've seen
janky. We need to cut the budget a little bit here. Bullshit. It looked bad.
I think it was because it was a close up on her face is what did it for me. The giant stag. I think the brown stag that the king killed,
the actual white
good.
stag. The brown stag looked better than the white one.
Yeah.
So at least I thought.
I'm pulling it up right now on my screen. Let me take a look.
So can we talk a little bit about the upcoming episode?
No, it's time to go. We cannot talk about it.
We're done.
No, talk about whatever you want.
No, of course. Go ahead. Take it away.
Well, I don't know. Did you guys watch the on next week's Game of Thrones?
I decidedly don't every week. Yeah. I wait until the next episode comes out just because I haven't read the books and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to get too many hints.
So after Daemon's victory against the crab feeder, he declares himself the king of the Stepstones. Because he doesn't have Dragonstone, that's Rhaenyra's. He doesn't have King's Landing. He's not like the heir. So he basically carves out his own kingdom down there in the Stepstones, and he returns to court a couple years after this, and basically presents himself to his brother. And it looks like they're going to try to mend fences, but then something happens to throw everything for a loop. This is the start of Rhaenyra and Alicent's kind of like animosity towards one another, and also Kristen Cole is going to play a role in what happens. But there's a big thing between Daemon and Rhaenyra that's going to be occurring in the next episode, and in the books it's very ambiguous what's supposed to happen. So I'll be interested to see how the show presents it.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for being here in the chat. That was weird. What was that?
Is that your phone?
Oh.
Always him.
The producer did it. Anyway, thank you guys all for being in the chat. Really appreciate you guys being here on Monday mornings. Hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. We will be back next week, same time, same place. Charles will be back as well, so if you miss him, he will be here to drop some book knowledge on us. He's such an elegant speaker, so I'm looking forward to having him back and have him break down some of these family ties and nonsense and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned next week. If you're brand new here, like and subscribe. We have a ton of content on this channel. We break down all kinds of movies every week. We're also doing heavy coverage of Apple TV's C. That's a great Jason Momoa show. We've got cast and crew interviews and such things like that.
We just released our interview with Sylvia Hooks.
Yep, that came out
Queen
yesterday.
Kane, crazy Queen Kane.
Queen Kane herself. We got some great comments on that video too. People were like, "Oh my God, she's so cool!" Like, yeah, she's a really cool person. So that's it. Yep, like and subscribe, all that nonsense. Vader, what do you guys got going on Saturday?
We're talking about that other show with dwarves and elves and shit in it.
I was gonna say, House of the Dragon, better than Rings of Power.
Much better.
I haven't even watched it.
I don't. We don't. I haven't. No, Daenerys hasn't floated out on a boat 1,000 miles offshore and said, "Nah, fuck it, I'm out." I'm
gonna swim back.
Tries to swim back to
Wait, Galadriel did that,
bro.
Yeah.
This show. Oof. Yeah,
Yeah,
so we're Kadish is making us torture ourselves and watch this show on Saturday mornings, and we only have one episode to talk about this week, so maybe we'll add a couple little more topics at the end. So, and we have
we have R.M. Huffman, who is a fantasy author and very knowledgeable about the Lord of the Rings. He's going to be on the panel. We got Brian from the Popcast, and this coming Saturday, we're going to be joined by Odin's Movie Blog.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on. Cool. Very good. All right.
Yeah, but we do it the day after the episode airs, kind of like how we do this. So we're very timely. Very timely
for us.
For us, yeah.
All right, Kadish, where can they find you on the socials, bud?
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter and Truth Social. And if you guys want to join our Facebook group, you can do that by going to saltynerdgroup.com. Takes you right to our Facebook group. And we're trying to build that out and have a lot more discussion and fun stuff over there. And also, we have a Twitter group now. There's a group feature on Twitter. So if you search for the Salty Nerd on Twitter groups, you can find us. And we have a lot of fun conversations going on there as well. So join the community. We're not just Discord. We got other stuff going on there.
Discord's where it's at.
No. Watch parties tonight.
That's true. 10 o'clock tonight. We're doing a watch party for Buck Rogers in the 25th Century.
Oh,
Planet of the Amazon Women.
Epic episode this week.
Oh my God. Buck Rogers has been so fun.
So
also 80s Mysticism Week this week.
Yeah.
Well.
Sweet.
Yep. So we're going to be releasing our reviews for The Golden Child and Big Trouble in Little China.
Right on.
Cool.
Yeah, guys, we drop daily content on this channel. So if you're brand new here, if you're watching this just because of House of Dragons, just scroll through the channel. We have so much stuff coming out. Jude, where can they find you at?
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on Instagram and on TikTok. I am also the redheaded daft cow on YouTube. And if you're listening on audio only to any of our stuff, please scroll down and hit the 5-star button because we really need a couple more of those to get accredited.
Right on.
Right.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Stay salty.
Oh yeah, I was talking to the chat.
Awkward.
Yeah. Okay. Say it again, Alex. Say it again.
Stay salty, my friends.